I'm Heather Neiswanger, and I'm going to be continuing on with my subject about marine pollution and the effects it has on the marine environment. So most people think that marine pollution comes from ocean-going vessels like the gasoline and the petroleum that comes off of them, but really it's the presence of harmful chemicals and particles in the oceans, estuaries, marshes, mangroves, or other marine environments. And according to the United Nations Education, Scientific and Cultural Organization, otherwise known as UNESCO, estimates that over 80% of marine pollution comes from land-based sources known as non-point sources, and that is pollution that comes from runoff and even from us humans. So the littlest cause of marine pollution is known as sediment runoff, which is the source of naturally occurring marine pollution, and human activity has increased its concentration, especially when agriculture and construction increases around rivers and stuff. The sediment increases, and so sediment runoff is when loose soil enters streams and rivers. And the larger particles of runoff can clog the flow of water from the rivers and streams into the ocean, and can also increase the turbidity, which blocks the light from reaching the bottom of the seabed where the plants are, so they can't grow and they can't feed the fish or shelter the fish that live on the seabed. And so the decreased aquatic vegetation affects the fish and the shellfish. And the second cause of marine pollution would be algal blooms that can also occur from sediment runoff, which is when the microscopic algae, known as phytoplankton, feed on that nutrient runoff and proliferate greatly. So the algal blooms may also block the light from passing through the water, or deplete the oxygen from the water and release toxins into the water. And so the main thing that they can do to harm the marine life is to deplete the dissolved oxygen. And whenever that level drops below 30%, the marine life can no longer live. And so that is whenever that happens in an area, it is referred to as a hypoxic environment, or otherwise known as a dead zone. And so according to the UNESCO, there's approximately 500 marine dead zones that cover nearly 250,000 kilometers that exist around the world. And two of the largest dead zones are the Baltic Seas, which average is more than 49,000 kilometers over the last several decades, and the Gulf of Mexico, which reached a record of 21,965 square kilometers in 2002. But in 2014, according to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, otherwise known as NOAA, the Gulf of Mexico dead zone shrank to 13,085 square kilometers. And so that was good, but still. So the third major cause of marine pollution is the dumping of raw sewage, and this is a global problem. It can be seen here in New York City, as well as overseas in the Mediterranean Sea and the India area. And so heavily sewage affected coastal waters can be unsafe for swimming, and the sewage sludge can settle on the seabeds, which destroy the marine life that settle there. And so in the Mediterranean Sea region alone, 80% of urban sewage and wastewaters are discharged undertreated and untreated into the seawaters. And in India, raw sewage is commonly dumped into the largest rivers there, and so that flows into the oceans around India. And from 1986 to 1992, over 42 million tons of treated sewage sludge from the New York City metropolitan area was dumped into the Deepwater Canyon in the northern Atlantic Ocean. So it's not only the countries that are poor and aren't able to treat their sewage that are being affected by this, but it's also the United States, that is affecting the marine life. So the fourth and foremost cause of marine pollution is trash and solid debris, which is particularly in the form of plastic, and this majorly affects the marine environments in the ocean and stuff. And so plastic accounts for approximately 90% of all the trash floating in the ocean on the surface and stuff. And according to the United Nations Environment Program, otherwise known as UNEP, they estimate that every square kilometer in the ocean contains approximately 17,760 pieces of plastic. And plastics and other garbage are carried by the ocean currents into confluences and vortexes of currents called gyres. And the North Pacific Gyre has amassed the world's largest collection of floating debris and refuse, and the Pacific Garbage Patch covers an area larger than the U.S. state of Alaska. Many places on Earth, this happens on many places on Earth, when currents carry large amounts of floating debris and waste back to the shore. And whenever this happens, it's known as garbage beaches, in which people cannot go there and swim because the beach is covered in plastic and garbage. And so plastics can enter the marine food chain, and this happens whenever the small fish feed on the smaller pieces, known as microplastics, and then those microplastics bioaccumulate when the larger fish eat the smaller fish. And so the studies that have been taken on this show that the microplastics can concentrate other toxic chemicals already present in the water, and therefore they increase the toxic effects when they are consumed by the fish. And scientists have found that microplastics, along with most other forms of marine pollution, are in all of the world's oceans. And so I understand that marine pollution is not talked about today as much as air pollution or gas pollution, or like other pollutions like that. And so people don't know what it can cause, but as I've presented, it really affects the animals in the ocean, but it can also affect us as ourselves, as with the plastics that float on the surface of the ocean. Those can get caught in boat propellers and get boats stranded out in the middle of the ocean, and it risks our lives as well. And so we don't want to let that happen. We don't want our beaches to go to waste. We still want to swim in the ocean and enjoy those beautiful reefs that are out there covered in colorful fish. And so we don't want to live a life regretting that we destroyed some of the most beautiful sights on this earth. So let's do more about it. Thanks.